This woman murdered a guy and then threw parties in his house for like weeks afterwards and drove around in his nice cars and stuff. Now the woman's name is Jordan, and Jordan is 21 when all this starts, and she's living in Idaho. And here's the thing about Jordan. She doesn't really have a lot going on. Like, she doesn't even have a job. But she really wants to experience a rich lifestyle. Like, she wants multiple cars and lots of money and things that wealthy people apparently enjoy. And she's willing to do just about anything to get that. So one day in 2012, she's out walking her dog and she comes across this man, Brian. Brian is 49 and the dude is rich. He owns a local car business and a few rental properties, and he owns multiple cars and Hummers and Porsches and BMWs and even a boat, and he also lives in a really nice expensive waterfront house. So he's making a couple $1 million a year, so he's doing well for himself. Now, Jordan, she's known about Brian for a while. I mean, she apparently knows that he's a wealthy guy. And she also figures out that he has a reputation for being a really nice guy. And most importantly, that he lives alone. So to Jordan, this looks like the perfect person to take advantage of. So she comes up with a plan. She's gonna gain his sympathy and convince him to let her stay with him. That way, she can finally have access to the lifestyle that she really wants. So Jordan puts this plan into motion. One day, allegedly, she gets into some kind of domestic dispute with her boyfriend. And afterwards, she runs over to Brian's house and knocks on his door. Once Brian answers it, he sees Jordan all shaken up and terrified, and she starts telling him a story that might be made up, but the story is that her abusive boyfriend beat her and threw her out of the house. And Brian, he feels bad for her. I mean, he doesn't know what to do. So he calls the police. Later, police arrive to investigate, and they question Jordan about what happened with her boyfriend. And at some point during all this, Brian discovers that Jordan now doesn't have a place to stay. So he offers to let her stay in his house temporarily, I guess until she finds another place. And Jordan's like, sweet! Because, her plan worked. So she moves in. And a few days go by. And Jordan is still living there. So eventually, she and Brian come to an agreement. Jordan can stay in his house, and she'll live as a roommate, and she'll pay rent. However, it's not entirely clear that Jordan ever actually plans to pay anything, or if she ever even does pay anything. And Brian, he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who would make her. And so a little time goes by. And one day, Jordan, she's at Brian's place messing around on Facebook, and that is when she comes across someone from her past. This guy, Burke. And Burke and Jordan, they used to go to grade school together, and they were friends, I guess, and she used to have a crush on him. So she hits him up, and they start reconnecting. Here's the thing, though. Back in the day, Jordan liked Burke, but he rejected her. I guess because they came from completely different worlds. Burke grew up wealthy, while Jordan grew up poor, so I guess that really wasn't working for him at that age. So the two of them never really got together. But now, years later, Jordan still doesn't have a lot of money, and she doesn't want Burke to see her that way. So she lies to him. She tells him her life has completely changed, and that she's worked her way up and she's now a loan officer at some bank making really good money. She also claims that she owns this nice expensive waterfront house. And Burke believes her. He's impressed. So he asks her to hang out. And before long, these two start dating. But because she's lying to him, pretty quickly things start to get complicated for Jordan. Like most of the time when they hang out, they do it at Burke's apartment. And eventually, Burke starts asking to see this nice expensive waterfront house that she claims to own. And of course, every time he brings it up, Jordan comes up with some bullshit excuse, like she claims her mother is going through chemotherapy and that she doesn't want him to see her mother like that. And I don't know, nonsense like that. But she knows that she can't keep giving these excuses. Sooner or later, Burke is gonna see the house. And when that happens, he'll probably meet Brian, because, Brian's still living there, and he'll see that Jordan's been lying to him this whole time. So Jordan decides that the best way to deal with this issue is to get rid of Brian, and the best way to get rid of Brian is to murder him. So one night, she and Brian are hanging out in his bedroom, and suddenly, out of nowhere, she pulls out a pistol, and blam, she shoots him, and this, unfortunately, kills him. Then she wraps his body in a tarp, and she hides it in the crawl space underneath the house. After that, she steals about $1,000 in cash that he had lying around. So now, Jordan finally has this nice, expensive house on the waterfront all to herself. And immediately, she invites Burke over to show it off. And they hang out, and they chill in the hot tub, and then they decide to throw a little party. So they invite a couple of their friends over, and there's lots of alcohol and pizza and Zaza and other drugs, and Jordan pays for all of it, with Brian's money that she stole, of course. And pretty quickly, Burke moves in there. And, this guy, he doesn't know that there's a dead body under the house or anything like that. He just moved in. He thought she owned it. Also, these guys don't just throw one party. Jordan just keeps throwing more and more and more of them. And she continues inviting lots of people over to the house. And she's driving all of Brian's nice cars around town too, like she owns them. Meanwhile, Brian has a daughter. And she's noticed that she hasn't heard from him in a while. And she's been trying to reach him. And she calls him, but the calls, they don't go through. Then she starts texting him. But Brian's phone is actually with Jordan because she took it. And she's the one seeing all these messages. So Jordan starts pretending to be Brian, and she uses Brian's phone to reply to his daughter. And she's like, "Hi, I've been in Nevada, and I won't be around until later. My good friend Jordan is in the house. I can't talk right now, there's no service." But something about the whole situation doesn't feel right to Brian's daughter. The way the message is written, it just doesn't sound like him at all. But still, she hopes it's all just a misunderstanding and that Brian will get back to her soon. And 3 weeks go by, and she still hasn't heard anything else from her dad. And at this point, Brian's daughter has had enough. She knows something is definitely wrong. So she drives all the way to her dad's house to check on him. When she arrives, she finds that the whole place is trashed, like someone had been throwing parties there. So she knocks on the front door, and Jordan answers. And she introduces herself as Brian's daughter, and she asks where her dad is. And that is when Jordan starts freaking out. She wasn't ready for any of Brian's kids to show up. So boom, she bolts out the door and she runs away. And Brian's daughter's like, "Well, that was weird." And she calls the police. So then police arrive and they start looking for Brian. Of course, he's nowhere to be found because he's under the house. And so they track his phone to a local Walmart parking lot. So they go to that parking lot and there they find Jordan, who has Brian's phone. So they bring her in for questioning, and she bullshits them and gives them all kinds of excuses, but eventually she confesses that Brian is actually dead and that she hid his body underneath the house. And so, bam, they arrest her. Here's her mugshot. And ultimately, she takes a plea deal and she gets sentenced to life